Yeah, I'm watching the rise, and I wouldn't say I'm shocked, cause I'm hardly surprised. This one's for the ride, this one's for who knew I'd make it, just needed some time. This one's for my wife, could've left 1,000 times just about my side. This one's for the grind, I knew it.
What's up, everyone? My name is Randy Kaye, and I am the host of the Caught Up podcast. Today we have Steve Appel. He is a longtime travel ball coach and founder of a new local organization called Arizona Rising. Steve, it's always great to see you. Thanks for taking the time to catch up.
Good to see you too, my friend.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Doing good. You know, life's hectic, right? But we're right in the thick of recruiting season, so it's a lot going on, but it's busy time.
Well, for sure. Well, happy voting day, first off, to start off. Did you vote? I see your sticker.
Absolutely, yes. We got to, right? We got to.
Nice.
Important.
Yeah, no, super important. Well, dude, let's jump right into it, man. Just tell me, you've had a busy, what would you say, maybe since, I don't know, June, July, been kind of crazy and hectic and busy for you. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we decided, you know, I've been doing this, gosh, not quite as long as you, but oldest daughter's 30, so I think I started when she was 12. So 18 years of doing it, and been with a few clubs, and was with Storm for 8 years, and you know, some things, some situations. It's always been a possibility to run our own thing. It just depended on what was happening, and always was approached by other organizations and stuff like that, but it didn't fit to make sense. And there were some changes in the Arizona landscape, and we decided to make a go. Honestly, the real deciding factor to do it was the college coaches talking to me and saying, "Hey, you know, we come to you for kids and advice for people all over the country," because I talk about kids from every organization, your organization, Storm, Mercado. It doesn't matter if they're good ball players. We're just trying to help each other, right? It's all about the kids. So we decided that we were going to start doing something. I think I made the final decision. It wasn't finalized, but I started to say, yeah, it's probably a go in late June in Colorado, to be honest with you, after some conversations up there. So it was sort of fast paced, you know, figuring out colors. You know that when you left Firecrackers, and figuring out branding and names. And gosh, hard thing is there's been so many names in Arizona and all across the country, and you think you got a good one, and you're like, no, if that was somebody else, and you try to do something different. So, you know, we think we like it. So far, it's been received well, but so yeah, it's definitely been hectic. There's a lot more involved in running an organization and worrying about just one team, like I've done for many, many years. So, but definitely welcome the challenge, and so far so good. And, you know, we'll see. Nothing's perfect out there for sure, but we're trying to do the best.
Yeah. What was, before, you know, finalizing the Rising name and finalizing, doing that, what was there anybody that kind of had you really thinking like, hey man, like I might just go do this here?
Yeah. You know, my thing has always been, I wasn't going to be another West Coast org. You know, I have a great relationship with Dave Mercado. I talked to Mike Stith as well with Bat Busters over the years and stuff. And we wanted to do something different. So we were sort of, you know, when Chuck left Storm and him and Corey parted ways, I was helping him with, you know, he's talking to people locally, and then he was asking me about out-of-state brands. And so, you know, I gave him a couple people that I would consider calling that was, you know, sort of not in this market, which was Birmingham Thunderbolts, Beverly Bandits, and Virginia Unity, Josh Johnson's org. And so there was, you know, I think Chuck was probably pretty close with Unity, and, you know, I was considering that as well. But then again, I think the final one was the parents that were involved, and the college coaches just saying, hey, why do you go under another umbrella when you sort of have the name established out there and everything? So we went with it. And so that's sort of how it all came together. It was definitely hectic and crazy, and, you know, probably more than I wanted to bite off and chew. I always like the easy way, right? Worry about my one team, get them recruited, compete, and play the best. And it was easy. And this was a whole nother set of responsibilities. But it was the right time in life with my kids. You know, pretty much my youngest daughter, is now a senior. So don't have any more kids playing softball. Grandkids are still young enough that they're not active in a bunch of stuff, so I can still do and be involved with them, and then still focus on helping the kids out here in the community.
Yeah. Were you and Chuck kind of like once Chuck left? Because obviously, you mentioned it. He was kind of exploring options, and your name was kind of brought up a little bit, but not like, "Hey, we're doing this." Was that just him just kind of staying low with it, or were you truly like not really sure what you were going to do? Because the funny thing is like we were in Colorado, and I remember Josh Johnson told us, he's like, "Oh, hey, did you hear I got Apple?" And I was like, "I actually didn't, but that's awesome for you." So was it something that like, he was gone and you were looking to do something with him, or were you guys both looking in different directions?
No. So honestly, no, I had every intention of sticking with Storm. We've had some situations over the time, me and Corey, but me and Corey had a good relationship, and I honestly approached Corey about maybe starting my own branch, sort of the firecracker model with Brashear. Talked about doing that, maybe having just Storm Apple branch of it. He wasn't opposed to it, but I don't think he was ready to go down that road, right now this year. I think he wanted to maybe wait a few years. And so, no, when it was Chuck, I was just giving advice because I had been through, we've all been through some stuff over the years and everything we've dealt with. And so I was just giving him advice on, hey, if I was doing this is sort of the avenues I would look at. And he did. And he continued to stay in contact with me. But I give Chuck a lot of credit. I know there's probably a lot of misconceptions out there, and they think that Chuck, was talking to me every single week, come over. He really was just asking for advice. And then probably right before the summer, he threw it out there. He said, hey, what would it take for you to consider leaving? And I sort of talked about a few things, and and then it went from there. And yes, Josh, I was part of conversations with Josh in May, early June. But again, at that point, really just helping out Chuck and what he was looking to do, and still waiting. I didn't have a parent meeting with my parents until right before Colorado, I believe. I have to double check exactly, but it was right before. And they, again, the consensus was, I was surprised. I didn't think, I thought, there's a lot of money to do this, especially the travel we do, right, Randy?
Yeah.
And so I didn't expect them to want to pay for uniforms and pay for all that stuff. So I was content just staying with the brand and having a name that we've established. Obviously, my last name has carried a pretty good weight with the group. So I was content, and just things happened and things like that helped push the envelope both ways, my ways, from Storm's ways and things like that. And we just decided to finish out the season, which we did, took third at PGF in 16s. And so finished out and then made a clean, as smooth a break as possible, and went from there.
Yeah. Are you willing to let me, like you said, there were some things that, that Chuck, he asked what it would take. Are you willing to share any of that? Like, basic thoughts on what it would take to get you to even consider pulling that trigger?
Yeah, I mean, it was as easy as, like, one of the things Storm had was we had fields consistently. Doing this as long as we have, chasing down practice fields is a pain. And so I told Chuck, I wouldn't even consider trying to do our own organization if we didn't have a practice location that we could lock up for an extended period of time. Because the whole calling the cities to book fields and changing and not knowing if it's going to be canceled or not, that's been a process. And so I was like, I've done this too long. I'm too old to do that. Too much gray hair coming in that I don't want that stress. So that was the easiest thing there. And it was about aligning ourselves with good people that wanted to teach the game and really support it and had like-minded goals and desires. Because that's the biggest thing, that you got to have the right people that all align. And sometimes, we're in year one, a couple months in, to be determined if that's what we've got. We think we've got a good stance going so far, but we'll see. But it was about the people, practice facilities, and uniform sponsorships and things like that. Things that I didn't want to really dive into. I didn't want to do the grunt work with it because it was a lot. And, he took that on his shoulders and did a lot of work again for himself. Then it ended up aligning that we could partner up and make a run at it.
Cool. You had mentioned that you obviously everybody knows you that's familiar with you and your name. You were with Storm for a long time, and you mentioned that you and Corey had a great relationship or a good relationship. I think you said, and looking back, 8 or 9 years ago, I think there was like one or two Storm teams left, and Corey came in, and you got to give him a lot of credit. He was able to kind of turn that thing around. How much of a part of that do you feel like you were, and did it start to feel like maybe, and again, I'm curious, was it a situation where you're like, man, like I kind of want to branch off of my own now. I just did it with somebody else. I kind of want to pave my own way. Was it that, or was it just straight up like just time to do something different?
No, Corey did a tremendous job. I mean, the way I got with Storm, I think you have her working with you, was Kara Brunn, right?
Yeah.
Kara Brunn was coaching. I was with Killer Bees that year before. I was getting I ran two teams. I was like, oh, this is a nightmare running two teams at once. I was getting out of coaching, and Kara asked me to come help coach with her. And she had a 10U Storm team. So that's how I got to Storm. And obviously, Kara has done some different things along the way. And her daughter's tremendous. Gabby going to Oklahoma now. And I know Kara's working with you. And she's probably the best fundamental coach I've been around. And stuff. So that's how I got with Storm. Do I think that I helped play a role with Storm? Absolutely. But I don't think that. I think that in my little area and in my age group, I helped put us on the map and those things. But I also think Corey and Ronnie and all the other teams have put them on the map. So I don't think it was a Steve Appel versus Corey power struggle in that aspect of it. I think that, like I said, the time just got to the point where I've been doing it a long time. I had an opportunity to branch off and do something different. My kids are older, don't have a kid on the team, and it allowed me the opportunity to really dive in and invest more in 160 kids in the organization rather than 20. So that's all it was. It wasn't anything more than that. It wasn't a power struggle. In my book, at least, it wasn't a power struggle because I've got a lot of respect. I mean, what Corey's done with PGF, what he does for all of his teams, they've done a good job. So definitely was proud to be a part of it, but I don't think that I was the main part of it by any means.
And how did it go when you decided to tell your parents what you were thinking? Like, because in my experience, and I think I told you this, and I think I told Chuck this too. Parents are going to follow. They're going to follow you. They're going to follow the coach. The ones that believe in you, the ones that want what you want, they're going to follow you. So, how did that go when you let your parents know what you were thinking?
Well, so it's crazy, and I know people, especially us as coaches, were like, "How do you do this?" I really do always say I run my group like a democracy, which is crazy to think about. All the other the club coaches out there, like, what are you talking about? No, we don't give the parents any control. I'm upfront and honest, and I told them, "Hey guys, this is what we have. Here's option one: is we stay as is with Storm. We merge with Corey in 18s next year. I be a part of the coaching staff. I also help with recruiting for the organization because that is my passion. That is what I love doing in the sport more than anything besides competing to try to win a national championship. I love helping the kids get to the next level and achieve their goals. So that's option one. Option two, which I will present to Corey as well, is we branch off and have our own Storm branch, and we go from there. And then option three is we do something completely different. And here are some potential avenues we can go down, whether it's Virginia Unity, Beverly Bandits, or we start our own thing. Let's hear your, points on it, what you guys want. And, to my surprise, because when you have that many people, and we do have a really good group, but that means there's a lot of strong personalities too. To my surprise, it was almost unanimous that they wanted to branch off completely, and they wanted to do our own thing and make our own footprint, because I don't know if it's a pride thing or what, but they felt that the group had done a really good job with 3 straight top 10 finishes now, and they thought it was the time to do it, and they can help pave a new landscape for future kids to come through. So It was a conversation that we had on a Zoom call, much like we're having this podcast, but it was on a Zoom call with all the little heads all over the place. And
Yep.
I let each person talk and give their points, pros and cons, and we went from there. So,
and no looking back. It's
not yet. Talk to me at the end of the summer.
right. And you know, and I agree. I think you've that group. I mean, when you talk about that group, and just looking at even the roster from the outside, knowing most of those kids, or at least having a little bit of experience with them. I mean, it's a talented group, and in order to keep all that team together, I mean, there had to be some serious buy-in and trust in you. Was there anything after the fact? Because one of the things I tell a lot of people that ask me, like, they're like, well, you know, how was it when you went off and did your own thing? It's way harder than people realize. And there's so many other questions and backdoor conversations that have to happen in order to kind of like take care of business day to day. And it's like literally a hands-on thing all day. Is that what you're experiencing? Like you're on it every day, all day from sun up to sundown?
Yeah. So most people don't know I have a real job. I do mortgages for a living. And this has definitely taken a big chunk. I am on the phone constantly. I think my fiance, Abby, she bought into it and then quickly was like, oh, I didn't know what I bought in for so much. Holy cow. It's nonstop, because it's not just the phone calls. And listen, I have Chuck, you know, as my partner in crime in doing this. You know, we have other really good coaches, and Kenny Lopez and, you know, John Hamill and Anthony Hatch and, you know, all of them. And I mean, Eli, who you have experience with in the past, and he was with you for several years, he's running the team as well. And so there's just a lot of collaboration. And Todd Mabry, again, who was with you for a long time. I've known Todd since I got in the game. And we all have different mindsets and different thoughts, but the collaboration has been there. So, but that takes a lot of phone calls. And so I do think that it's definitely a lot more time consuming than anybody could ever imagine. You know, not to mention phone calls. I mean, hey, we had a parent in the first month decide they were leaving already and stuff like that. And so doing the right thing by the kids and the parents, you know, whether it's refund this or give them a credit for that, just making sure you're treating people the right way. But the other thing is, we have 13 teams. It's about, you got to get out there. Like, I've been to every team's practice except one. We have a startup 9U team with 6 through 9 year olds that are just practicing. I have not been out there yet, but I've been to every team's practice. I mean, just this last weekend, I think I went and seen 5 of our teams play. So people don't realize that if you're going to be the face and the head of doing it, you have to show support. You can't just throw something out there and say, put your name on it and think that everybody's going to be happy along the way. You've got to show them the reasons why it's important to be with you and the things you do for them. So it's definitely a lot. Abby just made the comment, I came home not feeling great after Sunday with the rain and the cold weather we had. And she's like, you are running yourself into the ground. And I'm like, well, it's part of the job. It's what I signed up for. And I'm not going to, people that know me know I'm going to go 100 miles an hour. I'm not going to stop. So that's what we're doing. But yes, it's a lot, but I would say it's not for everybody to do. But if your passion is involved in doing it, then yeah, you can definitely make it work. And there's a lot of smiles at the end of it. We've had a lot with kids committing, whether it's just on my team, all the teams in it, or having the parents reach out and give you the positive text. There's been a lot more positive than there has been negative.
Right. It's funny because when you look at, you know, and I agree, I've seen all the kids committing, you know, obviously I'm on X and on social media, everybody sees it, right? And what people don't realize is, like, you know, not only is it a relationship by you, the coach, whether it's a former player or, I mean, an existing player that transitioned with you, or somebody who you just picked up. I mean, there's a lot of groundwork that has been done prior to that. And then, you know, being with, you know, someone who has relationships that can kind of put your stamp on it. It's a collaboration. And I don't think people realize that. How much would you say, like, what is your strongest suit as a coach? Is it the recruiting or is it something else? And then the other question I was going to ask you, because you kind of elaborated on it, is that Chuck is your partner in crime. Is that are you and Chuck the owners of this organization?
Yeah, and I'll answer that one first. 100% we are. We're 50-50 partners, much like Dave Mercado and Brian Tidd in California. We are 100% partners. We are not making any money. You know this, Randy, right now. There might come a time that we got to that point, but we are definitely not there. We're out more money than we've definitely put in our pockets. But again, it's about the kids. So yes, Chuck, and he does a ton of work. Obviously, being retired from the NHL, he's still in real estate as well, but he does a lot of work on the fields and with other teams and practices, and we do clinics and stuff like that. So he puts in a ton of time and effort, but we're definitely 50-50 partners. So it's not just a Steve Appel thing. It's 100% a Chuck and Steve dynamic.
I want to comment on that because people don't realize either that, I mean, when you have somebody side by side with you that's handling, like you said, there's no money in it right now. And again, I'd like to even say too, that when you do make money, you deserve it. Like you'll deserve to make that money, however much it is, however much you guys are putting into it, because this is a business and there's a lot of time that's invested, but having somebody that's right next to you every day, all day, handling the problems and being able to plan things out and work through things, people don't realize how hard that is to do on your own. But you have to have that person that you trust. And it seems like you guys have that relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been through some stuff, more personal experiences, both in softball and outside of softball. And I mean, heck, people have speculations or mindsets, maybe misperceived, notions about things. But I mean, heck, people that know me 8-10 years ago, I was a maniac out there, right? On the field and stuff. And so we all evolve and I think we all go through this and I can say that about pretty much every coach in our organization and every coach I know in Arizona, right? We do good things, we do bad things, but yeah, having somebody that you can look at in the eye and know that, hey, if I need to pull off from something, you're going to pick up the slack and it's going to get done. It's a huge thing. And I don't think I would have done this, to be blatantly honest with you, solo. I wouldn't have done it completely on my own. And I think Chuck started to see the same thing when he was exploring. He was like, whoa, there's a lot to it. And we definitely, we've talked to you, we've talked to Ramsey, Corey. I know I was on the board with Storm for 8 years. I know the ins and outs and all the other problems that come out of it. But, going back to your other question about what do I think my strongest suits are? Yeah. And I want to point out, like you said, these kids, all of these kids in this group that I have, I didn't start coaching them at 10 years old or 9 years old, right? Scott Steverson coached a big chunk of these kids. And then you and Eli had several of these kids as part of it. And there's been other people that have helped lay the groundwork and help do that. Just like my other group that when we took second in the country, Sierra Daniels, Caitlin Terry, Jocelyn Brisky, I'll say it right now, Kara Brunn, and I said it years ago in my interview when we won the national championship, she helped send her a text right after that. She 100% helped pave the way in doing that and putting good groundwork. So that's the thing that I've always been the most passionate about is I want Arizona softball to be the gold standard. I want it to be at the top of the food chain.
It can be.
It absolutely can be. I mean, you hear there's, California thinks that they're at the top of the food chain. And then you've got Texas and what Scotty does over with the Bombers and, Nathan. I mean, you just look around, there's so many good people and good coaches. It's the margin of error is so minimal to win it. But I take a lot of pride in having, I'm going to say 90% Arizona kids. I'm going to say I have 3 out-of-state kids, and 2 of those kids started in Arizona. And they were in Arizona when they played for me to begin with. And then because of college and jobs, they transferred. And now they live in Texas. So I have 1 out-of-state kid, but I take a lot of pride in that. And that comes across the board. That's why I think as a group, we all have to continue to collaborate. This isn't hey, Steve Appel and Chuck and Rising want to be on a different level and hold their nose above everybody else. No, we want Rogue and Storm and Mojo and Hot Shots and anybody else that to really collaborate, work together, because I loved when we seen in the College World Series the stat about how many kids were in that College World Series from the state of Arizona. And they weren't just from people that I've had involvement, or you've had involvement, or Corey's had involvement, or, Ramsey. It was people that have played for multiple different organizations. When you look at the amount of population we have to the number of kids that were playing in it, it speaks volumes. So what am I good at? Yes, I think I'm good at relationships with coaches. I have a lot of them, but I tell people when they come to me, recruiting I'm not going to get you recruited. What I will promise you is that we will play the best competition. We will be on the main fields as most as possible. We will chase the competition, and you will have an opportunity to perform in front of these college coaches. And if you do that, and you do your emails and you do your side work, you're going to be fine. But I'm not going to be the one to do it, because if I was, boy, I would not be coaching, Randy. I'd be the college scout agent, and I'd be making a lot more money off of some of these big scholarships, other than getting a 3/4 or quarter zip that I ask my girls when they commit to give me. So I think it's a group of things. I think recruiting's a big deal, but I'm not going to lie, I love, in the heat of the moment, I love the competition. I love game management. I love trying to outthink, hey, what's the other coach doing? Is he going to pitch out here? Is he stealing? What's the batter thinking? I love that part of it. So coaching in those things, I love that, and I love the recruiting, but it's definitely not just a Steve Appel thing. I think it's a collective Arizona club softball thing that has worked, because, Mike Sheehan had 4 or 5 kids that I have, and he's in the Storm organization when they were little. And if he didn't do a good job building those kids up, they wouldn't be where they are now. So I definitely think it's a whole collective collaboration of all of us.
Yeah. And I would say, if somebody asked me, like, hey, what's up with Steve? Like, tell me about Steve. I would say the same thing. Like, relationship wise, I think you do a great job there. And then I've never been to one of your practices. I've never been around you, like, in that setting. But from a game management point, I think you do a really good job there. And I think you manage personalities well, because let's be honest, people think, I had a coach say a few years back, I was playing him in a friendly, and he was like, I think we were beating him and pretty good. And he's like, well, hey man, I don't get all the best kids, or I don't get some of the top kids. I actually have to coach, and I'm like, look, dude, like, if we're not giving them what they want, they'll leave.
For sure.
And so, like, to that point, I think you're doing a good job of keeping them engaged and feeling like they're getting what they need. And so, I would say that's what I would say. And then the other thing I would ask you is, do you think we're doing a good enough job collaborating? Because, like, and I'll just say it straight up. Like, I feel like everybody wants to, but it's almost like a tribal thing. Almost like, dude, I had somebody tell me, that politics and club softball, travel softball are the exact same thing. Matter of fact, travel ball is worse than politics, because there's just so much, like, you're either on this side or this side, and there's there's propaganda out there all the time about this or that, whatever it may be, from whichever side. Everybody does it. Do you think we're doing a good enough job?
No, I definitely think we can do better. 100% we can do better. And I think, and you're right? Like, we're all coaches. There's a lot of egos that get involved. And,
for sure.
I mean, me and you have always, I've talked about coming to Rogue in the past, and you've talked about having me come over before I did this. And we would scrimmage each other and do those things, and we would always try to work together. There are others that they don't want to do that. They're afraid you're trying to, take your players, and people that know me know how. And again, there's 25 different ways to skin the cat, right? But how I do it is, the day one I commit to my team in August, that's the team I'm going to roll with to the end, barring injuries. I don't think I picked up somebody to go to nationals since Henu, and her name is, she's actually up at Utah right now, and she played for Laura, and that's back when ASA was still around. So it's probably been, Caitlin, my daughter's 25. That's when we went to ASA Nationals, so 15 years ago. But I make a commitment to my girls, and I ask them to do the same to me. Now, towards the end of the summer, yes, you are talking into the next year and stuff like that. And I just think that I'm just honest about what I'm looking to do. And I'm not for everybody, right? Don't work for everybody. And not everybody wants to come in. It's hard when you look at the roster and you've got, this 15, 17 kids, and they all can play. They all deserve to be in the starting lineup more times than not. And a lot of them are used to being in the starting lineup every single game. So it takes a lot for them to sit. But I do think as coaches, we all could, get together, have a beer, and sit down and really set something up where we work with each other and utilize what we're all good at to help each other so that all of our programs get better. Because in all of my glory days of doing this, and in my 23 group that I had that took second in PGF before COVID, you were gracious enough to play us in 18s. A lot of people wouldn't. We had to leave town. There wasn't a lot of competition at that time in that group. And I think that's what holds us back a little bit. When you look at California, you look at Mercado, you look at Bat Busters, you look at Corona Angels, you look at, Warrior Academy and Sun Cats and everybody, and, Dirt Dogs all through California. And they're not afraid to do scrimmages, friendlies, do things together. Yeah, and there's some gamesmanship once in a while, but that's how those guys get so much better. And that's why we spend so much time playing out of state, is because we're trying to play that competition consistently. But I think we all could put our stuff to the side a little bit and get together. I definitely would be open for it. But, with anything, it takes time. Sometimes people need to see there's feelings involved. And so we have to do it when it's right. But I definitely think we could get better.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the one thing out of this that comes is that people can see that, I think we have to do a better job. And you said it. I've never been afraid to play anybody, even when there's really no benefit. Some people might look at it, there's no benefit. I've always looked at it is if there's an umpire and there's a field and we've got two teams that want to play, let's play. And to me, we could probably do a better job of saving ourselves a little bit of money as well. So I think it would benefit a lot of people. I'm hopeful that, others will kind of hear this and want to try to get involved and kind of open their eyes a little bit. What are you doing this summer? You going to PGF or you going to Alliance?
We're going to PGF as of right now. I talked to both. We are playing like this next weekend. We're in Bombers. Last weekend we were in Team New Jersey's, which is more of an alliance, but they had a mix of people. Bombers, obviously defending national champs. We play Scott's team Friday night at Davis Diamond at Texas A&M. So in an exhibition game. So super excited to see that. And then we go to Clearwater, which again is a mix of people this fall. So for me, my whole thing has always been, I just want to play the best. Where's the best competition at? And right now, I love the variety that PGF has in terms of we've got Mojo, Bolts, Bandit, you got Hot Shots National, you've got the California, you've got a blend of teams from all over the country. Where right now, I love the format of Alliance. Let me tell you that first and foremost, how it mirrors what college softball does in terms of the tournament. But there's a lot more of certain organizations that have multiple teams. And that's not saying they're not the best teams. I just like the overall feel. So right now, PGF, we're looking to do Triple Crown Nationals in St. Louis. For people that don't know, I like to take my kids to different parts of the country so that they can learn where they can play in. We normally go to Chicago every year, which is still potentially on the agenda. We've got P5 / Patriot Games, and then the Sparkler National Power Pool. So that's sort of I haven't even announced it to all of my families yet because we just got to get through this fall first. But we're working on those things, and that's the expectation is we'll most likely go to PGF and do that unless something changed. But I don't see that happening. I think PGF does a great job. And let's be honest, how do we not like to spend a week in Huntington Beach in the middle of the summer, especially those of us that are from Arizona?
It's hard, right?
So, right. How do you pass that up?
I kind of look at it too, is like most of us from Arizona are, everyone's playing in PGF. So if you're out there trying to recruit kids to go to Alliance locally, and I mean, that's an easy argument, hey, why would you go all the way to wherever? And then, instead of going to Huntington Beach, like you've done the last however many years. So I think that's a tough one. I played in Alliance a couple years ago. Really liked the format. Obviously, those guys are all great guys that run it and own it. Super great organization, and it's just for us. I think the fit is going to be to try to get to PGF and make that happen. So
I agree.
Yeah, man. Especially like you said, 115 or 75. It's a pretty easy one for us. How do you I know you've moved up, over the years, 14s, 16s, did a really good job at 14s and 16s, and moving into 18s now with this group. What's the mentality? What are your expectations? Is it still business as usual? We're going to go try to win a national championship. What are you guys thinking?
So first off, we are the hunted. We're not the hunter. Because there are a lot of people that I have. I did 10s. I tell people all the time, I lived in the 10s to 14s for the 3/4 of my career in coaching club softball. I loved it. I loved imprinting on the younger kids and stuff like that. And then we did really good in 14s, went back with another group in 14s, now 16s, and then now we move into 18s with this group. And, all the we know the heads of all the big orgs. And trust me, we played in the PGF shootout a couple weeks ago. And nobody's trying to take it easy on us. Bill Conroy and the Bandits aren't. Dave Mercado's not. Everybody's like, hey, you're the young pup coming up. Let's try to knock you down. Luckily, we ended up winning the PGF shootout. Not luckily,
yeah.
We played really good ball. But it was a great competition. And then this weekend, we played. Marty Tyson got after us, and we played Stiff, and we played Tony Rico. And so the goal, though, the ultimate goal, yes. Win a national championship, absolutely. But I say this. Because I've had kids that played for me, and then when I stayed down, they moved up. Audrey Leclerc, who coaches in the organization and finished with you and played with you after when she went to California and played for Mercado and won a national championship.
Yeah.
And you win it, and it's great, and you got your ring, and you got your trophy, and it's a memory. But it's not setting you up in life after the fact. So the goal for this team is to win a national championship, yes. But the biggest goal is to prepare them for college. Because I want to see these kids go to college, compete, and don't call me after year one. Knock on wood, hopefully, where we're asking to enter the transfer portal. I want them to be prepared for what they expect. Some of the new kids, I got a new pitcher from Tucson, Amelia Struber. She was being recruited by everybody, including out-of-state teams. I found out a few out-of-state teams talking to me about her a couple weeks ago. And, she asked me, Steve, what would be the benefit for me coming to spend my senior year with you? And I said, I'm going to teach you how to pitch and play against the best. I feel you're going to be the most prepared to go and have a chance. That doesn't mean you will, but have a chance to pitch day one of your freshman year at Oregon State by coming and playing the competition and seeing the best hitters. So it is to get them college ready. It is to make them understand what real life's about so that they're not just because the biggest smiles I get, I know you've been through this and you've done it the same way, is when these kids graduate, when they get married, when they buy a house, when they become doctors, when they have babies and they reach out to you. And they thank you or they invite you. That's the biggest joy I get out of this, is to see that we've helped them become fine humans. I got 5 daughters, so I'm all about girl power and making your own way. And I teach my girls that as well. So I definitely think that helping them be ready just to be great human beings is the ultimate goal on what we're trying to do. But yes, winning is always at the top of the list as well.
Yeah. I've had recent conversations with coaches, and when they talk about winning, right? They say the same thing. They're like, dude, just make sure they're ready. Keep playing the schedule, keep holding them accountable. And I think, talking about Struber and specifically, to go from being the ace, the one that gets the ball every inning of every big game, you might have a different role. I don't know, but I imagine that there's going to be maybe a somewhat of a different role, and she's going to have to find her piece with that and do her job. And you're right. She's pretty, she's going to be prepared. So
yeah, you're right, it is. And I mean, in the fall, we're still doing a lot of showcases because being at the head of the org, we gotta make sure we have those relationships to get into the right events. Like I'm going to Clearwater, and people are like, Steve, 98% of your roster is recruited. Why are you going all the way to Florida? And I told my parents, it's not for you. Yes, the competition is for you because we're going to play some really dang good teams, but it's for all the younger ones up the way because we've got to have those relationships because that is a key for what we're doing. But so, we're on a 2-inning rotation right now. 4 pitchers. One of them is Macy Jackson. Another new pitcher is down with an injury currently. So she's out. So I'm on a 3-pitcher rotation. But, Struber got the ball in the championship game in the PGF. She gave me 5
nice.
strong.
I didn't know that.
She did. She got the ball. I went on straight rotation, which I'm going to say in all of my years, I have been blessed to have some pretty good arms. I mean, we had KT and Jocelyn for 5 years, and that was
started on that.
It was huge, right? But you got those 2 kids. This is the first time, though, I feel I've got one of the most complete pitching staffs where I can give the ball to anybody, and I think it's really going to help us because Goose and Cody, did a lot of the legwork, and Goose did a ton of legwork last week at PGF to be able to have them fresh late in the tournaments is going to help because we have some really, really good. And the competition, I'm still a firm believer. I give Todd Judge all the credit still. When he was coaching against us, I was always like, that guy's crazy for some of the ways he does things. And I joke with him now that he's at Utah State. But we all do things differently. But the thing I learned from him is competition, right? You have to always compete. And if you just expect things, those are the kids that don't end up making it in college where they're used to playing all the time and they're not used to sitting, and the parents are used to maybe giving a little complaint or saying something in the coach's ear. They get to college and they find it hard because there are 25 players real similar to you, and the margin for error is so small.
And what they don't understand is they're coaching for their livelihood. They're coaching to keep their families from having to move. I mean, they have to produce and have to perform. So they're going to do what they think is best for the team and not necessarily to make one person happy.
For sure.
What do you have any, for anybody else out there who, a new coach or a coach, moving up as you did, will you have any advice for the coaches out there, the Arizona guys or national guys? Do you have anything?
Yeah. I mean, I just think always wanting to learn, and don't think that you've mastered the craft. Like I learned from you, I learned from Corey, I learned from Nathan Nelson, I learned from Bill Conroy, like always learning, whether it's studying stuff on YouTube, talking to the college coaches. I told Jeff Harger this weekend from Texas A&M, thank God Hallie's running their Instagram and stuff because I get so many new drills just by watching the Texas A&M softball little 5-second Instagram clip. I'm like, ooh, that's a good idea. How are we going to get our own spin off of this to implement that? Don't be afraid to ask, especially those of us that have been around. And I do think as a coach, I think we've seen it for people that, I will say this on this call. I say it to everybody or this podcast. Keith Householder really taught me a lot along the way. Keith Householder, 15 years ago, he was at the top of the game here at Arizona softball, right? And so, and I tell Keith this because we still talk, and he's still coaching. He's in the Firecrackers organization. I think he's getting a 14U team now. He's got an 18U team, but I always tell him the biggest thing I give him a hard time about is I was like, you didn't evolve. You got to one level and you stuck in your ways a little bit. So I think as a coach, even if we're winning and you're doing great, you can learn so much from having conversations by others, and it helps everybody else. And again, if the goal is to help as many kids in this state, as many girls get to college, and we know you've done this, you've sent way more kids to school than I have. There's a place for everybody. They just have to keep them engaged in it, happy with it, constantly learning. So I just think don't be afraid to reach out and ask. And it's my phone is not, it's a lot more busier these days than it's always been. But, I used to have kids that would call me out of rec and say, hey, we want to try out, but we don't think we got a chance. And my advice was always come out, let's take a look, and then let me help you, give you advice on what might be a fit for what your family is doing in other organizations, even if it wasn't Storm. Maybe it was Vendetta, maybe it was Rogue, maybe it was Hot Shots, maybe it was, Suncats, whatever it was. And I just think that we all, again, we could collaborate better, we could talk. it doesn't need to be about, hey, it's not gangs. It doesn't need to be about the colors we're wearing and things like that.
It just feels like it sometimes, though, doesn't it?
Hey, it does. Trust me. And you walk around and you see things. And again, I'm a firm believer. You know, I'm a Christian. Those that know me, I got a giant cross tattoo on my forearm. And, you know, things happen for a reason. And it'll all work its way out. And it'll all come full circle. So, while, you know, maybe you've had a bad thing, you just don't hold grudges. If you hold grudges, you're just not living a happy life. And we're all going to die at the end of this, right? And we're all going to hopefully be playing softball in heaven and having a great time and doing it. But we want to live our life and be as happy as possible. So I enjoy being around the girls. I know how much time you put into it. You enjoy that. We don't do this. I love it when I see now the chatter boxes about daddy ball and stuff on some of these social media pages. Hey, remember, everybody, at some point, pretty much every big time coach that's out there, he was a dad at one point. He got started at one point, and maybe he mastered the craft. Maybe some of us don't play our kids as much as they should have. You know, my kid will tell you that all day long, but it's still, we're all giving up our time. And remember that, parents, when you're out there, these coaches are giving up their time. They're taking away time from their family, their kids, their grandkids, their friends to try to make your daughter better. So not every fit's perfect, but hey, you know, just be civil and have great conversations with people. I think it'll go a long way.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna echo that. I think right now, I think we're still a little bit away from it, but it, you know, the Arizona playbook of like divide and then steal, I think needs to tone it down a little bit, and I think a little bit of respect between all of us. I know you and I have talked many times, and you know, there's always an ethical way to, hey, everything good, like ethical times. But I think, you know, for the most part, and people learn this as they go through this for a while, you know, calling somebody every week, or, you know, I think just treating each other the right way. And that'll be the best pathway for us all to work together. When there's that mutual respect where it's just like, yeah, I don't really call Steve's kids. He doesn't really call ours, you know, whatever. But yeah, man, I appreciate that. I think, like I said, I echo that. You got anything else? Any one final thing you want to get out there? Anything exciting happening in your life? I think I figured you out a little bit, though. It sounds like you do this so that you can graduate girls and then they can buy a house from you. Is that what it was?
I've had a couple. You know? Hey, trust me, if I was making a living off of softball like some of these California guys out here, I would much rather just spend my life doing softball and not doing mortgages and stuff like that. But no, I mean,
you're smart. Keep your job, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
When it's side money, it'd be better. It's
well, and a million times. I mean, listen, trust me, I tell people all the time, just like, you know, in my business, I run the state of Arizona for my mortgage company. I still originate loans. And the day that I stop, I won't be the manager. I won't be as positive. And same thing with coaching. You talked about it in college. If you are coaching for your livelihood, it's different, right? It's different. There's some joy. You're worried about, hey, am I going to lose my job and have to pick up and move my family? So definitely that's not in the cards and stuff like that, but exciting, you know, engaged to Abby. Hopefully, you know, we've had some kids get married. I just officiated my stepdaughter's wedding a couple months ago. So I know you were just I think it was your son's wedding in Iceland, which is awesome. Cool. I mean, really just cool. You know, for the kids. And the last thing I'll say, because there's a lot of speculation, is, hey, why did Steve do this? Why did he leave? And I've heard, it's about the money and stuff like this. You can ask pretty much every parent in my organization and every coach that's talked to me. The one goal I have in doing this, the money to making it, if I can pay for a family vacation and take my grandkids and my kids and their spouses, you know, $10,000, maybe it's $15,000 with damn inflation right now. Sorry, but if I can make a little bit and take them, because Randy, you know this. I mean, I looked at my July calendar last year. I was gone 28 out of 30 days. 28 out of 30 days. So people don't realize how much we put into this. It is not to go out and be the next Tony Rico. I'm too old for that. I don't see myself in the game that long. I've committed to Chuck in this organization. I'm going to give it 5 years, and then we're going to reevaluate and see where we're at in that one. that aspect of it. But, you know, I had kids at a young age. My oldest daughter, she's 30. I have 2 grandkids by her. My fiance's son, Travis, we have grandbabies 4 days apart that are now 9 months old. So I want to be able to enjoy those kids and do those things. So in the meantime, I want to give as much back to as many people as possible. But yeah, it's just, it takes a special person to want to coach and do it for the right reasons. And there are people that aren't doing it for the right reasons. We know that, but that's what I want people to know about it. What is Steve Appel and Chuck Kobasu doing this for? From Steve Appel's perspective, it is not to buy a second home off of softball money. I wish that was the case. I just don't want to pay for my own food when I travel for other people's kids on the time. I'm just blessed to be a part of it. And, you know, those out there, I'm going to throw a little shout out. I did speak with the church I go to, the Grove. They started 3 or 4 years ago. It's called Justice College. They just became Justice University. They're on the verge of being NAIA, and they're going to be starting a softball program. So they talked to me about it. Right now, I'm talking just more in a consulting role and giving them ideas and tips, but just another thing for girls to be looked at, another opportunity to maybe stay home and play some
That's awesome.
Softball and stuff like that. So keep your eyes out for Justice University and the Lions and seeing if they start a program here soon.
Very cool, man. Well, great job today. Yeah, dude, I appreciate you taking the time. All right, man. I just want to say thanks for listening. We will continue working to elevate the sport and get caught up with those who are influential in the fast pitch community. And hopefully we can help you navigate your softball journey. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Caught Up with Randy Kaye, or at Coach KAZ. Listen on Spotify, Caught Up with Randy Kaye. You can also follow us on X and on Instagram using the same handles, at Coach KAZ. Thanks again for listening. Good job, man.
Thanks, everybody.